The final theory is the most controversial of probably the lot. It is feminism. Now, we're going to look at feminism very, very briefly now, and there's lots of different types of feminism. There's some really extreme feminism, radical feminism, and there's some quite nice feminism. And we should all be feminists to some extent, because in an ideal world, feminism is about equality. And it's equality between the genders. So it's men versus women for a feminist. Guess what? They're in conflict. And feminists believe that men are the winners of this conflict. And so much so, they think that the whole world is dominated by men. And the word that they would use is that they live, or that we live, in a patriarchy. A world that is dominated by males. Now, obviously 100 years ago, you can see that in the UK, because women didn't get the vote until 1918, I think. And only some women then, but still only some men before as well, if you remember. So, there are lots and lots of examples, so a feminist would say, of women being dominated by men. You see it in the media. You see it in what they would argue is a gender pay gap. You see it in domestic jobs. The expectation that maybe your mothers or your aunties are the one who look after the kids and do the housework. And that is restrictive of women. And therefore it shows evidence that we live in a male-dominated world. And basically, that is it. That is what feminism thinks. Now, as a conflict theory, what do they want? Well, they want equality. They want men and women to be equal. So because they want that change, we put feminism on the left-hand side, and we now have a balanced seesaw, and maybe I can put Weber in the middle, because he doesn't really care whether you change or whether you don't. The only thing that we've got left to do is, I suppose, criticise feminism. Now, feminism is a very straightforward view. Every single society is dominated by men. We live in a world completely dominated by men. However, look in the prison system. Look at the unemployment rate. Look at the suicide rate. So the prison rate, the suicide rate. You look at the victims of violence rate. Well, what do all of those things have in common? Well, the prison population is 95% male. The suicide rate is about 75, I think, in terms of man to females under a certain age. Victims of violence, massively more likely to be men. So my question is, maybe feminists are right to some extent that women are discriminated against, and I can certainly see some evidence down here. However, can we really say that we live in a fully patriarchal society if all of these things happen to men as well? Men perform way worse in education also than women, so surely a fully male-dominated society would mean that men wouldn't be in bad positions in life. They wouldn't be potentially marginalised and locked up and at risk of suicide. So there's weaknesses there as well. Now, that concludes the quick rundown of the 5 social theories, the main ones. Hopefully, those of you who were online last time, this makes a little bit more sense. So, if you're ever struggling in sociology in the next year or so, go back to these videos, because everything that they're talking about today is about inequality. But that's traditional sociology. All the other topics that we are going to make fit, or all the other topics that we do, we'll fit these into them. So we'll fit a Marxist theory of crime, or a feminist theory of the family, or a functionalist view of education. But the foundations of what they will all think will be, well, problems of patriarchy, or the problems of the class system and capitalism, or everything's good and everything's nice, or some people are stupid. And that will be it. So if you've ever got any issues, go back to these PowerPoints and address them again and go, right, let's just get back to the fundamentals. And if you know this stuff off the top of your head, everything's straightforward after that in sociology. I absolutely promise you.